Hey, what's up, everybody? By now, you've had the opportunity to look at the first episode in this series of love, emotions, and intimacy, and the balance to find the connection between the two. As I've talked about last week, just as a recap, right, what we understand as love, emotions, and intimacy, or what we thought about what those three things were as we grew up as young men, or maybe even in relationships with one another was completely different from what we really know of it as now, right? As men, as grown men, as 40 plus, 30 plus year old men and women, right? For that matter, we have looked at what it means to be in love, the emotions that come with love, and the intimacy that surrounds the relationships. We look at those things completely different now that we are adults, right? Versus when we were teeny boppers and so forth back in the day, where we would just go from this thing to that thing or that thing to this thing, or backwards, right? Sometimes we make those transitions where we go back and forth to relationships, right? And so now, as adults, we understand that those things are not feasible. They're just not, right? Who really wants to continue to go back and forth? Like we're not gonna do the same thing. Like we ain't doing that. So in episode 2 of this series of love, emotions, and intimacy, what we're diving in this week, as I described last week, is emotional intelligence, right? What is emotional intelligence about? How it affects us as individuals, how it affects us as in relationships, and how it affects us as parents, how it affects us on the job. And understanding our own emotional intelligence has true impact on who we are in every aspect of our life. And us having that awareness of emotional intelligence really helps us be better in forming the relationships that we center ourselves around, better management of the relationships that we encounter, and gives us the ability to have some of those empathetic moments, right? Empathy, right? To some degree, where it really applies. And then using those moments, right, socially to really have us connect the dots in where emotional intelligence really lies, right, within ourselves, first and foremost, and then how it then we can use that same energy to translate and understand that someone else's emotional intelligence. Because that's what we're really trying to get to the root of what a relationship is really about. How I can use the things that I know to better position us in what in our relationship and go from there. Because if I, right, have a relationship with you and I don't know your emotional intelligence, everything that I do may set you off or possibly set you off for whatever reason. But if I'm aware of what your emotional intelligence is, I can help either, right? Not because I want to control you, but I want to help you manage through that because in relationships, that's what we're supposed to do, right? Especially when you're in a marriage. The ideal about what a helpmate is, or some people say help meet. But at any event, that's the point of it all, is so that we can guide and play off of each other's emotions so that we are aligned and stay moving in the direction that's necessary for us to continue our relationship. So, what does that mean? How do we use it? How do we use emotional intelligence to better the relationships that we in? One, self-awareness, right? The critical part of understanding where your emotional intelligence is you got to be aware of what you're feeling and what it is and how it is you're feeling about whatever that scenario may be, right? Then you have to deal with self management. And that comes with how you handle stress, and how you don't allow those things to cripple you as it relates to communication or actions or whatever passions you may have with various situations. Whether it's a Black Lives Matter or whether it's um, this is a good one. Give me the password to your phone, right? Whatever your passions are about those various topics in relationships, you have to be self aware and manage how you respond to those situations, right? Then, as I stated before, you have to have empathy, right? To some degree in relationships, right? To what others' feelings are, right? So if I am pro Black Lives Matter, but my wife or my spouse or my significant other is don't do the crime, you won't do the time type mentality type thing, right? Then I can't be mad at her or him for feeling the way that they feel. I just have to be empathetic and understand that, I mean, one, you're not going to have the same thought processes anyway. I mean, who does? And why would you want to, right? That doesn't make good relationships. If two people, if that's all you do is agree, you're probably just settling. I ain't starting no drama. Do you? I'm just saying that's not the type of relationship that I want to be in. However, when you use empathy and capacity, such as, like I said, with the cell phone thing, right? The password. If maybe, right, I feel like me giving you my password relinquishes my freedom, right? That doesn't mean I'm doing something. That doesn't mean that I'm hiding something from you, or I got bodies under my keyboard, right? That just means that maybe we should have a conversation about that, right? Because some people feel that privacy is just that their privacy, right? Um, and other people may feel like, well, we are together. If we're in a committed relationship and we've said that you're mine and I'm yours, and we're going to go forward and be married, then maybe some people feel that there shouldn't be privacy in a relationship, right? I mean, hell, that's why you get sometimes where women just walk in the bathroom on their man while they taking a dump. I'm not making no assertions here. I'm just saying some people don't like that, right? However, it's things like those that when you're in a relationship with another person that you have to be understanding of, you have to be aware of, so that when you're in those social settings with one another, right, which is the other piece of that, using your social skills, right, to equip you with the knowledge, duty, and care to form that relationship in a manner that really makes cohesive sense. Now, again, I am no expert in this. I'm just telling you how it's been in my life, in my relationships, and the things that I try to do, even if later in life, to make things impactful and sustained. Now, what does all of that mean? Well, again, the things that I'm talking about people have studied, they have written about. So there are plenty books on what emotional intelligence is. And while I may have read some books and and just through my life and understanding who I am as a person and who my wife is and who my children are individually, all of them, and coming to the conclusion of, well, this is how I want to be. This is how I want to go forward. My self awareness and awareness of who they are and how they are, so that I can better manage them individually, right? So that we can have a collective social engagement process with one another. But you can also use this with friendships, right? With friends, whether again they're male, female, platonic, friends that is in your circle that you really enjoy their company, right? It would be completely wrong of me to have a relationship with somebody and I am not attentive to that person's needs, right? Or I'm not listening to that person. I'm just ready to be heard, right? So it's things like that that I just don't, right? We have to go into relationships with one another in a manner that really respects that person and lets them know, hey, at the end of the day, I am here for you, right? I'm here from you. I'm here for you because I love you. And our connection on an emotional perspective, on a I love you perspective, or on an intimacy perspective, my care is for your heart at the end of the day. I'm sorry, I had a little itch. And you know, listen, I'm human. I'm I'm me. And that's just gonna be that. So what does it mean? Right? So again, psychologists have studied this for people all ages, right? There are plenty of lessons out there, right? But this platform is how do we use emotional intelligence, understanding what true love is, understanding how we balance our emotions, and the intimacy that we have with one another. How do we use those things to build lasting relationships? Because we all have relationships, but how do we build lasting relationships? And again, whether you're in a relationship, right, in a romantic relationship with somebody, and that relationship end, does it always have to end bad? Right? Sometimes people just grow apart. And that's okay. And you have to be okay with understanding that that's okay. Because everybody ain't meant for you. There's there's this old saying, right? And we've all heard it, right? This person may be in your life for a season, right? And their season has come and their season is gone. Even when their season is gone, that doesn't mean that you have to be in relationship romantic with them, but you can still be in a friend relationship because there's still great parts about both sides that you found, unless there was some toxicity in the relationship, of course, but then you want to let that go altogether because that's not love, right? So um but that's how we grow things, right? And so when we utilize it in that way, right, we take those relationships and we build upon them even when they don't work out for us in a romanticized way, that we can still have friendship, right? And that's the core of being emotionally intelligent and having that self-awareness that just because you and I aren't dating or we're not in a relationship with one another in a physical or sexual manner, we can still be really good friends. And I know many of us can attest to that, where you've been in a relationship with somebody and it didn't work out for whatever reason. It didn't work out. You somebody cheated, or you just kind of went your own paths, right? Sometimes careers take people to different places, and it just kind of dissolves to that degree. And sometimes it's just you fall out of love with that person, right? And so when you're not in love with somebody and you're just there, then you're really cheating yourself, right? You're cheating yourself out of what you could have with somebody that your heart is ready to receive, right? And so understanding all of that, all of those things, the emotions, the love, the intimacy, and how we can build those lasting relationships regardless of whether we're, in relationship with each other as an intimacy, as a physical way, then we share right? Common bonds and goals that, while it may not have worked with us together, certainly can work with us as counterparts in life, right? And bouncing ideas off each other and one another. We do it all the time in interviews. So, they say, you know, tell me some of the things that, right, that you're good at, or some of the things that you are, they say that, you could improve on, right? And we always think about those things. So when we're in relationship with people, we really ought to be doing the same thing. And personally, I could care less if you've only been dating or with a person for 1 year or 30 years, because I mean, and it's even especially for those individuals who's been together 30 years, because you tend to find yourself in a revolving circle. Here's how it plays out. You wake up, you brush your teeth, use the bathroom, shower. Some people shower during the day, some people shower at night. Eat your breakfast, say good morning, go to work, do your job, text or call maybe throughout the day, come home, cook dinner, male or female, or you go out to eat, take a shower, hang out, go exercise, go to bed, right? Eat dinner, go to bed. And that becomes the revolving cycle, right? And we forget that in the midst of that, we have to display love, right? We have to show the emotions that you and I are connected. And of course, on occasion, there will be some, right, some snuggling under the sheets, right? As Al Green would say, right, in between the sheets, right? There has to be that, right? And there has to be that in a capacity that demonstrates again that I love you and I'm not just trying to be physical with you, right? Um, because again, I mean, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because it's a great thing, right? Um, but that shouldn't be the only thing, right? If we're just, everybody know what that means, just to be doing it, and I'm not making love to you mentally, your mind, right? Male or female, right? Because that works both ways. Then what are we doing, right? Then we have a disconnect there, right? And so that's what it's about. That's at the root of it. That's how we get to the bottom of what we are trying to do better in our communities, in our relationships, in our friendships with one another. That's the end goal. How do we make these relationships last? How can I take the relationship that I have with my brothers, translate that into their relationships with their spouses translate that relationship to my spouse, and keep a community of friends who are engaged both emotionally, intimately, and in a manner that displays love, right? And affection for one another. Again, this ain't no let's be swingers type crap. This is some legitimate, how can I express and display my love for you, my brother, my sister, my wife, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my significant other, whatever you are. Um, how can I show you that in the best way that you see my heart, maybe, and not what I say as much or what I do as much, right? And we all say, Jesus know my heart. Jesus know my heart. Well, that's Jesus. I don't know your heart. You need to show me. Tell me, do something that makes me feel good, as they would say in Players Club. Shout out to Players Club. Do something to make me feel good, right? Because at the end of the day, I need to feel you, right? Adele makes a perfect song for this. Make you feel my love, right? It's a wonderful display, right, of how a person can share with you what they want you to make them feel. Now, people are probably saying, I can't make you feel no kind of way. I can't make you feel my love. But actually, you can, right? And it's not necessarily because you buy me this or you buy me that, right? Maybe that's not my love language. Maybe it's not. Maybe how you show me or make me feel your love is by quality time, right? It's by just cuddling with me. I know. Men don't like to cuddle. Lies, right? And if they tell you that they don't like to cuddle, test that theory, right? Because we all want to be shown love, affection, appreciation, and all those things that come with being in relationship with one another, right? And and I know I've expressed or stated this in the last episode. Mine is quality time, right? That's what I care most about. I can buy myself whatever I need. I'm really simple in that capacity. I was messing with my cousin them the other day, or yesterday, in fact. I was walking through a store and they had Polo Association, and they was like, "You better not buy that." And I was like, "Why? It's a shirt. It looks nice." And it's like, "You better not come in there with no big horse." I'm like, "But why?" But it's our thought process, and this is not, not offside, but off track. But it's our thinking about what we think matters or what values that takes the idea of what love, emotion, and intimacy is away from what it really means, right? Because the same people that make Polo Association, right? So why would they not mean the same? But at the core of it, and hell, maybe I'm wrong. I am not a fashion designer, period. I don't know Polo. I don't know any of those guys. Hell, I don't know Polo Association. All I know is if I like something, I like it. And I don't care the cost. As long as it's not too much, right? My lack of care is if it's too low, right? I don't care if it's too low. But I think we all like savings, especially the women. At any event, back to the story at hand. We have to be what is self we have to be self-aware of who we are and what we're doing so that we can better again have those relationships with individuals in our circle, outside of our circles, even if it's with family, and having disagreements and arguments and fights and all those silly mundane things that don't really matter because we're still family, right? We're still friends, right? I'm not going to give up on the relationship that I have with you because we have a disagreement. No more than I would give up on a relationship with my children because they get in trouble, right? We don't do that. So why don't we afford our relationships that same opportunity, right? Because we that's what we need. I also stated in the last episode that there's this group right of individuals in a European country where they're thriving because of their relationships. Again, self-awareness lends credence to that because of their understand because of emotional intelligence, right? And their understanding of who they are, who they have in their circle. And if I get outside of that, then I'm breaking the mold of what potentially could be our greatest feature, right? Our greatest possibility of being in relationship with one another. So that's what we're here to discuss, right? Another thing, right? The main, again, understanding emotional intelligence is something they use on the job, right? In our roles as leaders, right? Supervisors and professionals, and dealing with others. I told y'all before, I'm a HR manager, right? I'm in the HR professional space, right? As a trade, and in the military, was that, and as an investigator, right? A military police officer, investigator, right? So it's incumbent upon me, right, to make sure that as leaders and supervisors, we are emotionally aware. We have that self awareness of where we are, who we're, what's our audience, right? Let's just go with that, and what's the message we're trying to convey, right? And as leaders and as right, it's our responsibility to make sure that just because our subordinates respond or react in a way that's elevated more than what we are typically, right? Because we're professionals, and we can't respond in that capacity. So as leaders, that's what we are. That's one way we can determine what our own right self awareness is, right, and where how our emotional intelligence aligns with our roles within our organizations, right? It's especially important when we have conflicts with our significant others, right? And how we manage through that particular issue. Um, and again, this is something that, you know, it the potential issues could range from so many things. I mean, they could be simple misunderstandings. Um, hell, we all do it, right? Text messaging. The confusion that comes between text messages is crazy, right? And we all know this. Um, but we still do it, right? Instead of us picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, babe, listen, XYZ, I was hoping that you could, do this or we can make this move or whatever scenario may be." Because a text message, let me tell you, has started wars in homes, right? And has led to some divorces or some misunderstandings that moved furniture, right? And I'm just saying, we have to be aware of who we are, the things that we say, how those things that we say affect that other person. Because it's not just the conversation that you're going to affect. You're affecting the mentality of that person through your response. Because now, well, maybe I just don't tell you, right? Or maybe the response that you gave me was so left field that, you know, maybe this ain't something I share with you no more. So now I'm putting in barriers, right? So you're putting in barrier after barrier. And after a while, you just stop talking, right? We can't do that. And so that's where the self-management piece comes in, right? So that we can, look at how, and again, it takes practice. None of us, especially me, right, do this precisely, expertly, perfectly every time. Now, what we can do perfectly, expertly, precisely every time is understand where our self management comes in the picture. Once we can understand where our self management in the relationship or in the conversation or in the situation itself, once we can understand how our roles align and where we align in that, then we can manage that through the way we communicate, the way we respond, the message we're giving, and the message that we're receiving. So take a breath, right? Sometimes that's what people tell you to do, right? Before you respond, we all do this. Before you send an email, don't hit send, right? You read it, especially those angry emails, and y'all know how y'all can get. Um, read that email, right? And determine if this is really what you want to say and go from there. Then read it again because you know you missed something because we want it, our inherent nature is to be petty. I'll be the first to agree. I'll be the first to admit. I just like to be petty just to be petty, right? Because I think it's funny. But to the person that I'm being petty to, right? They may be taking it really hard or they may be taking it to heart. And is that the message that I really want to convey? Not really. That's just the silliness in who we are. Because it's not necessarily, and not all the time, right? We're not trying to be mean. Um, we're just trying to be, you not going, right? That's what we want to say. We may not do that, or we want to flex our own individual muscle, and so we don't change it, right? We don't do the things that we should. So our communication or the messaging, whatever that communication is, gets completely skewed because of our own self management if we're not able to do that, right? And so that's why self management is important, right? And again, back to the idea that, what empathy is, right? Again, empathy really depends on the situation, right? Because of course we're all going to be empathetic to a death in the family, right? To someone having a death in the family, and we're going to be empathetic to someone's relationship breaking up, and we're going to be empathetic to our kids having and how we are getting a bad grade or all those other things that sometimes we take for granted. And so we look at what empathy is, right? And we have to figure out how to keep it right in a cordial fashion so that regardless of the context of whatever the issue may be, we're able to process it, right? Especially in relationships, so that we don't in turn offend the person that we ought to be really being empathetic to, right? And whether that's my wife, right? She goes to work, and she comes home and she has a long day, right, of talking and all those other things. But because I know these things inherently, right, I'm not going to bombard her as soon as she come in the door. Hey, XYZ, this happened, this happened. I need this. We need to go do this, blah, 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 blah. I can't do that because, well, one, our goal, our jobs is to relieve that pressure, not add to it, right? And so that's a part of self management and being empathetic to that person, right? Having empathy for that person, right? So that we're not just so rah, 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 rah. And we can pull back and say, hey, listen, I got dinner today. Don't worry about it, right? Or listen, I already picked up dinner, right? Me and the kids, we're gonna go do this. Go jump in the bathtub, go take a little bath, do whatever you want to do. Get yourself some downtime because I know you've had a long day. Vice versa, women, it works both ways, right? Um, it just works both ways, right? We can appreciate the same things that you guys do, while it may be on different levels and different scales, and typically women have been, those more receptive to being empathetic in relationships. Fellas, we have to change that because I mean I don't know any woman that, well, I mean, I'm sure there are some that'll be like, oh, he think of me too much. Like that's too much thinking. Like I don't like that. Nobody's gonna do that, right? Nobody's gonna say, please stop thinking of me so much. I got this, right? Now, if we're inserting ourselves maybe too much and trying to, because I've done this, right? Even with my own wife, hell, recently, where I thought I was being helpful, right? Where I thought that I was being, being her assistant, not as in her scribe, but being an assistant to the things that she might have needed in her career. She didn't need me to do those things. And while she may not have said, hey, listen, I don't need you to do that, my self awareness told me that, hey, maybe I need to back up and not try to do everything for her, right? Because not because I can't do it, but I don't want her to feel like she needed me to do it, right? Right? Like I felt like I need to do this because she can't do this. But it was more so I wanted to do it just to help her, right? But let her be great, right? Or let him be great, right? In whatever capacity they may be. Ask her or him, can I help you? Or is there anything you need me to do? Versus just doing it. And then we can begin to see the change in how, right, our empathy for that person, right, more aligns with our love for them versus our need to do something for them, right? Because we think they need it. Right. And then our social skills, right? So our social skills actually revolve around just how we utilize all of those things, the self-awareness, the self-management, right? The empathy in building that lasting relationship, right? With one another and our partners and our friends and our children and our family, extended family, whatever the scenario may be. How do we use that information and make it work so that we can begin and again on a day-to-day basis maintain our friendships in a manner that if even if my wife and I separated, that we remain friends, right? It's no secret to most people on my page that I've been married before, and while it was not a bad marriage, right? um, we're not friends, right? And we're not friends because we hated each other, it was bad, or I don't know, maybe she do hate me. But there was no visible hate, right? But it just didn't work out. And so that's what I think we have to change because people will tell you, I mean, anybody will tell you, I don't mind people knowing that I don't. If you jacked up, you jacked up. And that's just the bottom line. I may have said this before. But I don't want to intend for you to hate me. I don't want I don't intend for you to dislike me or wish me harm or don't want me to, have great things and be great and all those other things. Regardless of our relationship, because that's not what I want for you. What I want for you and what I want for me is to be the best that we can be at whatever that may be. Shout out to the Army. um, and live our lives to the fullest, right? So that's what it's all about. I was listening to a couple um, videos on Facebook as it just kind of streamed through. And I ran across this one that and it really struck me as in a not in a bad way, but it really challenged me to say, the question was, excuse me, can men and women be friends? And this guy, this gentleman, he was like, no, I cannot be friends with a woman because or men can't be friends with a woman. And the reason was that men are only looking for we're only friends because we haven't had the opportunity to sleep with you. And I completely, one, I wholeheartedly accept the fact that that brother understood his self-awareness, that himself could not be friends with the woman because it's only an opportunity for him to, he's just waiting for an opportunity to sleep with her. But on the other hand, I felt like, but is that what everybody really thinks or feels? That men and women can't be friends? Now, the interesting thing was it, it wasn't that the woman was looking for an opportunity to sleep with the guy. It was that men are just looking for an opportunity to sleep with the woman. So, what do y'all think about that? Do y'all really think that that's a valid assessment of why men and women can't be friends? So weigh in on that and let me know, and we'll go from there. So again, I appreciate you guys listening to me rant, not rant. Gotcha. Just for those that think I'm ranting, then I challenge you to love different. Um, but for all of you that are listening, right, I definitely appreciate the opportunity to share this time with you. And while I know that Dominic has not always been the person that you may see in front of your screen today, I assure you that I value every one of you in your own capacity, right? I have what I can remember, right? Memories and things that I know I share with a lot of the friends that are on my list in some capacity. And I value who you are. I value what you are to me and what you were to me and what you really are to me currently, right? Because of our relationships with one another, I can be the person that I am today, right? Regardless to how our friendships is, right? We are here for a reason, and I think it's Kendrick Lamar. I want to say it's Kendrick Lamar, and his song with no, it's Wale. I think it's called um, the Marriage Song or something to that scenario. Where Jerry Seinfeld is on that roller coaster and they're talking about growth being like a roller coaster or marriage, and you're chugging along and you're it's something new, right? Growth is just that. It's something new, and you can't grow if you're not learning something new. And so this is a part of my growth. This is a part of your growth. Um, Hopefully you use this, and I'm certainly using this as an opportunity to be a better version of myself. Um, and all my friends that know me, that like know my heart, know that this has been a roller coaster of a life that I've had. And so it's only right for me to share it with you all. And I feel honored and blessed to have the ability to do that with you all. And so that's my mission. That's my goal, to make us men better in the way that we love, right? And in our emotions with ourselves and how we love ourselves, and understanding what the intimacy is involved in that, right? So, hey, episode 2 in the books, y'all. I again, I appreciate everything that y'all done for me. Um, and so, as it relates to love, that's what we're talking about next, right? What is love versus being in love, and how we have interchangeably used those words to mean the same thing. To think that because I love you means that we're in love, or vice versa. I mean, can you really not love somebody if you're in love with them? Mm. Or can you love somebody and not be in love with them? That you're in a relationship with, of course, right? Because it doesn't work when it's friends. And then if it's friends, then maybe that brother was right, saying that men and women can't be friends, or whatever the scenario may be. So that's what we're gonna talk about on the next episode. Right here we are again with your boy Dominic on the couch in the building. Episode 2 in the books. Love, emotions, and intimacy. Right, and this topic is emotional intelligence. Right, what it is, how we manage it, and how do we use it to better the relationships, to make lasting relationships with the people that we love and care for in our circles. So I appreciate your time again, and I'm out. Love y'all. Have a great week. Deuce.